Hey everybody, welcome to another update with our guest today, Dominique Dickey, who actually, just finished their internship with Monte Cook Games. So welcome.
Hello.
And I guess we got to start with, what is first of all, internships? You don't hear that very often. What was it like interning at Monte Cook Games? How did that happen? And yeah, just what was your experience like?
They were running a semester-long internship program for the fall semester of this academic year that I applied for in the back half of last summer 2019. That I heard about through a connection of mine that mentioned that it might be something that I wanted to apply for. And when I interviewed with Monty and Shauna, which was really intimidating and cool, and they were super nice and great. And then I ended up getting the position, and I for several months just got to do a bit of everything and got to try on a lot of different hats and see what I was most interested in and what I most wanted to pursue in the field. So I got to do some layout stuff, some editing stuff. And then shadow on administrative work, and really just get a feel for all of the different tasks that go into running that sort of company and keeping the lights on. And then my internship ended up running over a little bit. It was supposed to be a semester long. It ended up being a semester and a month and a half, and went a little bit into my current semester, which is spring term. Which I will not at all complain about because it was such a good time that I really just did not want to leave, and they could not get rid of me. I kept thinking of tasks and being like, what if I do this for you guys? And what if you keep me on so I can do this thing? And just finding more opportunities to wedge myself into the company. And yeah, I feel like I really learned a lot, and I sort of was able to get my feet under me as a young game designer and a young writer and editor working in games, and I learned so much.
So you got to have this really hands-on experience, and I'm curious, so after getting to put all the hats on, which hats did you end up preferring?
Editing is something that I really want to do. Cultural consulting, something that I've also gotten into as a result of my internship, and I did some writing that I don't think I can talk about while I was
writing.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, secret project that will be out in the world at some point this year, I think. And I learned through that internship that writing adventures is really hard in a really fun way that makes the dopamine lights come on in my brain because it's so incredibly challenging but so rewarding. And I learned that I love doing the administrative work that makes it possible for art to happen. So if I were to ever be in the position to open my own company like that, I would want to do the very high level finance stuff, I guess, that lets other people just show up and create art. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, okay. I think it does. I mean,
so I totally lost track of what the question even was.
Yeah, I was just curious about what had really appealed to you, and so it sounds like we could see one day Dominique Dickey starting your own game studio, or
Dominique
who knows what else.
Games.
Exactly.
It would have a cooler name than that, I hope.
Sure. Whatever you want to call it. You got.
I have years to figure that out.
Right.
I'm nowhere near ready. I have to go to grad school first.
Fully on the academic track.
Yeah, I'm finishing up my undergrad right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now is loose. I have some time left. And looking at getting a PhD, and then after that, and I want to continue doing freelance games work throughout my PhD, and then come out of a PhD program and work in academia and also in game design and also.
I was gonna say, you're just gonna be way too qualified to work in games after that.
But I want to. I just I'm currently completing a thesis on the representation of non-normative genders in 21st century American science fiction. And I want to be able to continue that work. And I think like the best and most feasible way to do that is with support from an academic institution. So I'm looking at like, how can I stay affiliated with universities, which is just going to be grad school.
Okay, cool. Ooh, that's a really fascinating focus. And I feel like that's going to become more and more important. Like, oh, wow. Just thinking about like Cat Rambo is the name that like comes to my mind when I think of like writers doing a lot of work in that space. And I'm sure there are many, many more that I don't know about. But that's super cool. Now, I'm curious. So you mentioned like how you loved doing the adventure writing for Monte Cook Games. And I'm curious though, for you transitioning over to Sea of Legends, like from jumping from RPG writing to this branching narrative writing. Well, I guess the first question would be like, so for fans of what you've been doing with Monte Cook Games and of their work, what do you think will appeal to those fans, to people who might be interested in Sea of Legends? Where's the connective tissue there?
I think like the mechanisms of storytelling are a little bit different, but the possibilities of what a story can do are still the same. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at like branching narratives instead of a more like linear campaign or adventure, but the stories are still able to like explore the same themes, do the same thing. So all of the subject matter that I've gotten to work with for Sea of Legends and all of the like cool characters that I've gotten to meet and play with are things that like I could have feasibly done in a like different style of adventure. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're saying the format, might be different. The medium's a little different.
The format is different, mm-hmm. but the content is very similar. And I think if people are familiar with the content that I'm interested in, which is a lot of like redemption, and I love pirates, and I love zombies, and I love high stakes combat situations. I think if people know, if people have read my work or have gamed with me even and know to expect those things, all of those elements are still going to be there. And I also think that with most adventures or campaigns, you only really get to play them once. With branching narratives, you have the option to go through and make different choices and see what else you can make happen, which is like another just added benefit as a player and as a writer.
Yeah,
I get to surprise myself.
Right, you always get to like go back and see, well, what did I miss? If you want to, and you get to write that. You get to write, instead of like one way the story goes, you get to think about at least 2 or 3 or more. Who knows? That's kind of.
Which is so difficult, but in a very good way. I think like with writing, like the adventures that I got to edit or got to write at MCG, it was sort of like there are a lot of different ways you can get to the same endpoint. So your players might choose to like go down this like pathway, down this narrative pathway, but they're still going to get to like the big reveal at the end that makes the plot make sense. Whereas for Sea of Legends, there are a lot of different possible paths you can take, and all of those paths lead to unique endings.
Yeah, right. And the pacing, I guess. The pacing is something that's like very different, where you kind of just have to you really jump into it whenever you start an adventure, and it's just like it moves very quickly as it has to occur over a series of 3 turns.
And that was also just like, as a writer, it was hard to master. I wouldn't say I've mastered it. It's been hard to like get my feet under me in that regard, but not hard in a bad way, hard in a fun way. Like, I'm having a great time, but and Ryan can like attest to, we've gone through so many drafts of what I'm working on because I keep like missing the mark on all of the various elements that you have to balance in this sort of writing. But every time that I get feedback, it's an opportunity to try again and do something else cool and like surprising and rad. So yeah.
I'm glad to hear that it's not just a painful, gut-wrenching experience. I think
no, it's really fun.
I think for most people, it's like a challenge that is exciting because you get to be so efficient. But like that is, the struggle, especially. I mean, I feel similar to you that I'm someone who spent a lot of time working in tabletop RPGs originally, and so that's a very different space where the words, on the page are doing so much work, and they're the primary vehicle for the story. But this is much more akin to something like the style you see when approaching writing for a video game, where you're relying on assets and images and like context to fill in some of the gaps for the storytelling.
Yeah.
This is like my new catchphrase, by the way. It's not really a question, just a comment. I think I've said that in like every single one of these interviews.
Don't become the guy that goes to panels and is like, well, it's more of a comment.
Yeah, it's like, I really just wanted to know. Yeah, no. No, this is like something to like step back a minute. I was kind of curious. We jumped right in talking about Monte Cook Games, but I'm just like, on a personal level, I'm curious what brought you into games in the first place as a player, and then how'd you make that jump from knowing, from being a gamer to being like, oh no, I want to make games and write for games. How did that all happen for you?
I think all through high school, I really wanted to game and just didn't have the right like social circles or people who were down to explore that with me. And then when I got to college, it was actually like within my first weekend of being on campus, my friends that I met through my orientation program were starting a D&D one shot and asked me if I
found the nerds.
Yeah, I found the right people like right away. And they asked if I wanted to join. And I played a human wizard named Michelle Obama because Michelle Obama would be a human wizard, and had a really good time and was like, oh, okay, I could see myself doing more of this and I want to keep doing this. And then did a lot of like really casual, like very like low stakes one shots with those same people it was very like we weren't playing for the sake of the game, we were playing for the sake of spending time together. And I really loved that. And I started thinking about, I had a lot of ideas that would make fun, that I thought would make fun adventures, that I thought would, and then I started having ideas for adventures that I couldn't see how to make possible with the mechanics of the games that I was working with. And that sort of got me into like more design stuff, was being like, I want to tell this story for my friends and I don't know how else to do it, so I'm gonna make up a way to do it. I think I played like mostly D&D in Cyberpunk 2020 up until my MCG internship, and then became like a Cypher System evangelist because it's such an efficient system. And
yes, I will say Cypher System makes it incredibly easy to like, I feel like, to roll up NPCs, and
yeah,
that was great.
That's like one of the only systems that I've GM'd in, and I'm very content to keep it that way because it's so easy. Like I almost don't, like, there are other systems that I'm curious about and that I have fun playing in, but not that I feel the need to like take the reins in, because there's so much like to juggle and balance that with Cyber System it's just like, think of a number, okay, that's all you need.
Yeah, it is probably one of like the most GM friendly games to actually like be still like pretty heavy and tactical still.
Yeah, and you get to do all the fun, like, I think Cyber System, like, you can choose as a GM too, like you can choose how heavily you want to lean on mechanics versus how much you want to lean on story, like whether or not you're really going to make a player roll for something or whether or not you're just going to like determine the outcome yourself. Like you can choose how much of the, like how much of it, how much you're going to rely on mechanics and how much you're going to rely on like the fiction. Because you can know where you want a story to go and still like maintain player agency, but get the story moving in that direction. Rather than having to constantly be prepared for things like going off the rails. Like I've had adventures where players make rolls for things that should have made everything that I had planned go sideways, and you're really able to come back from that in Cyber System, I think, in ways that other systems might not always allow. That like someone can roll something, and instead of being like, oh, I have to go with that like crazy direction that I'm not prepared to go in, they're like mechanics to pull things back. I got so off track from what the question was.
Well, it sounds like, so to take it back, it sounds like a key part of like your evolution into becoming a designer and writer was like your play experiences and then wanting to author those experiences and then like having to homebrew rules to like make those experiences truly possible with your play groups, and then just taking that kind of attitude and energy and applying that towards your work with Monte Cook Games. And then
I don't know if I'm like I wanna play as the human embodiment of a succulent. Like there's no system to make that happen, but
you have to design that.
I can make something up, which is actually an idea that I've been playing with for a while, but unrelated.
So can we expect to see a succulent themed narrative game in the future coming from you?
Yeah, at some point. With like general current events, I make no promises on when, but that's something that I was supposed to be working on right now, like as in this month.
Oh my gosh. But then, you know, this past couple months, nothing has gone according to plan. So
yeah. So I'm very, very behind on that, but that's a thing that I definitely intend to get back to when circumstances allow.
I'm curious too I feel like that has revealed quite a lot, but I'm curious for folks who want to get to know you and your work better, like what are the best ways to do that? Like what should they go check out? What should they go read? What should they play? You know, to get a feeling for your essence, you know?
I think DominiqueDickey.com has a lot of samples of my work, writing samples and blog posts and stuff. And then if you want to play games that I was involved in the creation of, or games that I think represent aspects of my personality, or games that help me become the gamer that I am now, I'd recommend Monte Cook Games. The Cyber System rulebook is like the Bible. And then The Stars Are Fire is the science fiction supplement for that, which is one of my favorite things in the known universe. Because they're like mechanics for spaceships and for like androids, which is, there's so much you can do with that. And there's a campaign setting in that book that I am very, very fond of. And then Stay Alive is a horror supplement for the Cyber System rulebook that I did some of the like hyperlinking and bookmarking work for, and in doing so got to read through the whole thing and learned so much about how to tell a story in that process. Okay,
so DominiqueDickey.com for fiction, nonfiction, and then also check out these other Monte Cook Games products that you've been involved with or personally just loved.
Yeah, and I'm also extremely on Twitter at Dom S. Dickey.
Dom S. Dickey on Twitter.
Loud on Twitter.
Okay.
I have a lot of opinions.
Well, Twitter is the place to have lots of opinions.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so everyone, you should go check out Dominic there and follow and support, and you know, then you can be on the ground floor of the succulent game, which I think we all want to see be made. That's just so the weird promise of that game has definitely got me intrigued.
It'll exist this year. I'm gonna say that now. It'll exist this year.
All right, we're holding you to it. I'm gonna remember this. I'm marking my calendar. Demand this is made. Awesome. So I think at this point, really, well, that was great. You kind of answered two of my questions there. So that was just efficiency.
Cool.
I think the other thing I was going to ask, though, is you mentioned you loved pirates, and I was curious, why pirates?
Ooh, why do I love pirates? I think I had like a formative experience as a kid that made me love pirates, which is that I went on a family trip to Bermuda, and there's a museum at the Royal Naval Dockyard, and there's a section of the museum that's about pirates. And I remember being like 13 or 14 and being like, having this moment of like, pirates are like ethically questionable, but really cool. And then came home and made my mom watch all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies with me. And have since luckily made friends with people who are also enthusiastic about pirates and about boats. and have been able to play a lot of campaigns across various systems involving those things.
I love that. I'm like, I want to put that on the back of the box quote. Pirates are ethically questionable, but cool.
Yeah. Like, I'm currently playing a D&D campaign that takes place on a boat, like, just because that shit's cool.
All right, so I'm glad you were on the team then, as someone who's actually truly personally living that pirate lifestyle in your games when you can.
Yeah. I also like, I think like pirates, we're also really gay, so that's like bonus points.
Important, yeah.
Like, shared property amongst themselves communally, like, just took care of each other, which are all things that I think that we should all try to embody. But don't, like, rob people, because that's not cool. But, like, the rest of it's really cool. And I think that gaming lets you kind of selectively explore those traits and sort of take what, like, if you're playing a pirate, I feel like this is true about playing any kind of morally questionable character, and not just pirates. So this is why one of the things I love about gaming is that when the session ends, you can choose what to take with you back into your everyday life. Like, you can, like, if you play a character, like, let's say, like, I hate confrontation, but I recently in a game played a character who caused a huge inter-party conflict, and there was like an argument in character, things were said that in real life would have hurt my feelings very badly, but in the game I had to roll with it. And I left that game thinking like maybe I could like stand up for myself and like start some shit if I had to. Like, maybe I learned something today. I think that playing any character that's very unlike yourself, when you leave the table, you can choose what of that character to take with you and what to leave. And maybe we should learn from pirates how to be better people, but selectively choose the lessons that apply to our lives and not actually like fly a black flag and rob people.
I like that. My takeaway from that too is like, you know, skirting the law. Sometimes if you're skirting an unjust law, if you're moving against that, that's not such a bad thing, you know.
Oh yeah, unjust laws don't deserve your obedience.
There we go. So be the best kind of pirate.
Yeah, be a kind pirate. I feel like as long as people aren't committing crimes against like individuals or individuals' property, like, be gay, do crimes, be a pirate.
Perfect. Okay, that is the perfect spot to end on. Be gay, do crimes, but the good kind. So I think, you know, look forward to that experience when you get to play Sea of Legends and play some of Dominique's work. So yeah, thank you so much, Dominique. And that was Dom S. Dickey on Twitter and DominiqueDickey.com.
Yes.
If y'all want to check out more of what Dominique has to say. So yeah, thanks so much for the chat. It was super fun.
Thanks for having me.